So here we are again, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just reintroduce myself. My name is Magnus Nielsen, Lord Londonstone, and I've returned to St James's Park Underground Station to complete this presentation on St James's Park itself. So what I'll do now is just turn round, and you can see that I've just come out of the station itself and I'm about to cross over the crossing and make my way into the park. We've been here before. This is Petit France. Is the car that right? Thank you. And all that way down Petit France, you'd come to Buckingham Gate, and before you get there, over on the right, you've got the Wellington Barracks, or at least the rear entrance to the Wellington Barracks. There's usually a guardsman up there, by the way, but he's dressed in ordinary battle dress, not the red tunics that you normally associate with the guards. Right, so we'll move on. Oh, hang on, we've got a map here, so let's use it. What I propose to do is head up here. Can you see my finger? There you can. I'm going to go up here, and this is Birdcage Walk, and I'm going to go into Birdcage Walk. I'm going to cross over the bridge, and then I'm going to go round, and then up here, I think. And then I will make my way down again to Horse Guards Parade, and go into Horse Guards Parade. So that's just to give you an idea of what my intentions are. Whether they actually work out like that or not remains to be seen. But it's always nice to have a plan, even if you can't fulfill your plan. Right, so today is Tuesday, the 4th of November 2025, and I'm going past the building which is used for the Ministry of Justice, the Crown Prosecution Service, the Government Legal Department, and the Attorney General's Office. Oh, there's a blue plug here. Oh, let's find out what all this is about. Jeremy Bentham, the philosopher and reformer, 1748 to 1832, lived in a house on this site from 1792 to 1832. So this was the site of the house occupied by the philosopher and reformer Jeremy Bentham. That's new to me. Just shows you. You learn something by coming out and doing films like this on London. I had no idea that Jeremy Bentham lived there. Jeremy Bentham was the man who founded University College London in Gower Street. He was also one of the great reforming energies after the French Revolution. This is Queen Anne's Gate, which we've been down before. Don't need to show it to you again, I don't think. This building used to house the headquarters of the National Trust, no longer. Right, so what we're now doing is just making our way down towards the park without any more faffing around. And what we shall be doing is coming into Birdcage Walk. So this is Birdcage Walk. You'll see, in fact, it goes all the way up there. As you go up Birdcage Walk, on the left you've got the Guards Chapel and the Guards Museum, and then you have the Wellington Barracks. We've been standing out there to see the new guard coming out of their barracks towards Buckingham Palace. Whereas over here on the right-hand side, the road will take you all the way down, eventually into Parliament Square and towards the Houses of Parliament. But we're going to cross over now. No, we're not, because we've got a red light. And we shouldn't do that because it sets a bad example. So that means I just have to stand here until the light changes. Actually, what I can do is press the button. That will always encourage the lights to change. Not that it's a very busy street. And indeed, there's not a great deal of traffic about. And since there's no... Oh, yes, there is. Hang on. So there's nothing coming that way to the right. And is there anything coming to the left? No, there isn't. So we'll cross over, nonetheless. Against all the rules. Now, Birdcage Walk takes its name from the bird cages, or in fact, more likely the exotic birds that were kept by King James I somewhere around here in the early 1600s. So that's why it's called Birdcage Walk. And what we're now doing is making our way into the park with a view to crossing over the lake by way of the Blue Bridge. So St James's Park itself covers, it's one of the smaller parks actually, one of the smaller royal parks. It only covers 90 acres or so, but its importance is that it links Buckingham Palace with St James's Palace and the old Whitehall Palace and the Palace of Westminster. So it's very much a royal park. And it was laid out in the mid-1600s, 1660, for King Charles II at the restoration of the monarchy after the fall of Oliver Cromwell and the Puritans. And because people had got so fed up with the Puritans and their puritanical way of life, they just gave themselves over to all sorts of licentious behaviour. And there's a poem written by John Wilmot, the Earl of Rochester, which I shall not repeat because it is obscene, about the activities that used to take place in this land all those years and years ago. So if you want to know more about that poem, you'll just have to go and conduct your own researches. John Wilmot, Earl of Rochester, St James's Park. Right, now we're approaching the Blue Bridge and you'll see the lake in a moment. Originally the lake was just a single canal, it was just a rectangular piece of water. Originally what they'd done is they straightened out the River Tyburn for the park as it was in 1660, but when the park was again redesigned in 1814 by John Nash, he added some curves to the lake so to make it look more natural. At least that was their thinking. And here they built a bridge originally with a Chinese pagoda right in the centre. This would be to celebrate in 1814 the 100th anniversary of the arrival of the House of Hanoverian dynasty. And eventually that burnt down in the 1830s, and then they replaced it with a suspension bridge. And that suspension bridge lasted for a while, but then they replaced it with this. This is what we call the Blue Bridge. As you can see, it's a blue bridge. And there you have a stud in the pavement, noting the fact that this is Diana's Walk, Princess Diana's Memorial Walk. And we'll cross over the bridge, and as we do so, you get a view here over on the left hand side of Buckingham Palace in the distance, not too far though. So that's Buckingham Palace over on the left, while over on the right you have the view of Whitehall. And somewhere up here you have the London Eye. We used to have. Can't see it at the moment. Maybe I'm not far enough over the bridge. Anyway, this is the... there it is. Okay, in the distance, the London Eye. So what we're now doing is coming onto the north side of the lake. You can just get a view of the lake. It looks perfectly natural. As I say, it's originally a river that was originally pools that sort of fed into each other, and then they straightened it out because that was the fashion in the time, to have completely rectilinear lines, keep the water under control. But then fashions changed in the 19th century, and they had a more natural curvature to the lake on its side. So that's the lake, and that is the London Eye in the distance. Right, further forward we have the Marlborough Gates, and the Marlborough Gates are the gates that you come through if you want to see the changing of the guard, having seen the old guard reassemble outside St James's Palace. You come through those gates and make your way over the bridge to go and see the new guard. And there's a little, I wouldn't call it a cafe, but there's a little place where you can get something to eat and drink if you want to. Toilets, facilities if you need them. Okay, we'll go round to the right. And I talked about birds and birdcage walk. St James's Park is still famous for its birds. And you can see here, we've got a St James's Park. Although in the bustling central of London, St James's Park is a site of the metropolitan importance for nature conservation. The oasis of grassland, mature trees and grand scenic lake has about 600 wildlife species recently recorded. The secluded shrubberies and trees are a great habitat for birds such as the long-tailed tit, great spotted woodpecker and tawny owl, all of which breed here. Formal bedding and wildflower meadows also provide valuable nectar sources for bees, hoverflies and butterflies. The lake provides breeding and overwintering sites for ducks and other wildfowl. Look out for the great crested grebe with its spectacular head plumes, and listen for the repetitively scratchy song of the reed warbler. Waterfowl can find secluded nesting sites around the lake's islands and reed beds. Reed beds are considered to be of a high conservation value in the UK, are important habitat providing food, shelter and nest sites for some of Britain's rarest and most threatened species. 8 species of dragonflies and damselflies have been recorded in the park, including the iridescent azure damselfly and the large brightly coloured emperor dragonfly, which catches its prey in mid-air and can even eat it in flight. At dusk, the lakeside is a great place to view pipistrella bats, which emerge from their roosts in the mature trees and nearby buildings to forage on the park's rich insect life. Visitors can also see our resident great white pelicans, which live near Duck Island. Pelicans were first introduced into St James's Park in 1664 as a gift from the Russian ambassador. That was the goodwill of the Tsar of Russia at the time to the King of England. Okay, so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. As I say, this is a great park for birds, and it continues the historical tradition right up to the present day. That's a swan there on the right hand side. Not quite sure what to call these birds. Well, these are pigeons obviously, but the larger ones here I'm not too familiar with.
Like what I see.
Yeah. There's another bird. Some sort of goose, I think. You'd hardly think it, would you? But we're right in the heart of London. Right in the heart, right in the very centre, very close to Charing Cross, which marks the official site, the official centre of London. But it'd be very difficult to believe, and it's a lovely autumn day. 4th of November, Tuesday the 4th of November 2025. The sky is just slightly overclouded, but it's remaining dry and it's not cold. I've been going for 16 minutes now, and there's still plenty of time, so let's just carry on. We're just making our way now down to the lakeside again. Oh look, squirrels. Oh dear. Timid little creatures, but there we go. Pigeons, of course, you get in great numbers. There used to be lots and lots of pigeons in Trafalgar Square, and eventually they managed to get rid of the pigeons in Trafalgar Square by discouraging people from feeding them, and also other measures. I'm not quite certain what, but there are no pigeons, or very, very few pigeons in Trafalgar Square. So as we come down here to the water side again, you can see some more information about the waterfowl of St James's Park. I won't read all this, but it gives you some idea of what it is you're looking at. I'm just curious, I think at number 19, what was number 19? The grey lag goose, I thought it was a goose. It's a huge thanks to Artemis for generally supporting St James's Park. Please do not feed the wildlife. Okay. So that must have been the pleasure of royalty way back in the days of King Charles II. They used to sort of wander up and down here, feeding the ducks, feeding the swans, feeding the pelicans, I suppose. That's Duck Island, is now directly ahead of us.
I don't think I got.
Swans, more swans.
I kind of realise, as it were, that if I'd left them down.
You'll see over here on the left hand side there's a place where you can get some food if you're, I wouldn't call it a restaurant, but it's a small cafe. Just down here on the left hand side there's really a repeat of all the information we've already received about the various forms of waterfowl. Here, as I said, there's a cafe. You can get tea and coffee and something else, or a light meal of some description. What else is there? Water. Past and present. History of St James's Park. St James's Park was once a marshy water meadow grazed by pigs, the often flooding river of Tyburn throughout, providing abundant fish. In the 13th century, a women's leper hospital was founded, creating a leper colony and giving the park its name. That was the building that later became St James's Palace. 16th century, the park was purchased in 1532 by Henry III, who wanted a royal deer park near St James's Park for hunting, St James's Palace for hunting. 17th century. King James I drained and landscaped the park. Birds for the royal table were lured using a duck decoy at the East End. Charles II made significant changes to St James's Park after seeing the classical French style during his exile in France. A long canal was created with avenues of trees and lawns laid on each side. The diplomatic gifting of pelicans that continues today began when the Russian ambassador presented a pair to King Charles II in 1664. Duck Island was built in 1665 as a sanctuary and breeding ground for wildfowl and other birds. An aviary was added to Birdcage Walk to house exotic birds. For the first time, areas of the park were open to the public, and promenading through the park became a fashionable social event. In the 19th century, the park was remodeled again in the naturalistic style in the 1820s by John Nash, commissioned by the Prince Regent, later King George IV. The canal became the curving lake within the rolling landscape, with winding paths and informal shrubberies. In 1857, a suspension bridge was added across the lake, replaced in 1967 with the bridge there today. Okay, so it was 1967, the creation of the Blue Bridge.
It is to cross over, yeah.
So what I propose to do now is to just bear round to the left-hand side, and we'll go and have a last look at the mall and the Duke of York's column before turning into Horse Guards. Right, so making our way around here again, you can see over on the right hand side these old Victorian gas lamps. Just down here over on the right as we go by now. And so we'll make our way up to the mall again. And before we do that, you can see here over on the right hand side there is this box which is full of thermometers and barometers and things which measure air pressure and temperature and so forth, just to give you the official temperatures in London. That's kept there. So again, here over on the right hand side, if you're hungry, there's a place where you can get something to eat. If you're thirsty, there's something where you can get something to drink. And you can see for yourself now that we're out on the mall. Next to the South African Artillery Memorial, the Second Boer War, 1899 to 1902. And we'll just take a last look at the mall before I head down towards Horse Guards. So here we are, we're back. Oh, let's go and have a look at the Duke of York's column. There he is. That's Frederick, the younger brother of the man who became King George the IV. And he would have been king had he not died in 1828. And so it was his younger brother, William, who then came to the throne in 1830. And this is the Mall, and that takes you all the way up to St James's Palace and Buckingham Palace. St James's Palace was the place where King Charles I spent his last night on earth before coming down to the site of his execution in Banqueting House. So on that morning he would have walked all the way from the palace along here and then down to Horse Guards. So you can follow more or less the route that he took. And then what I'm going to do is go into the Horse Guards, and we can have a look at the ceremony called the inspection. It's not really a changing of the guard, but it's an inspection of the guard, the last thing they do every evening at 4 o'clock. So what I propose to do now, coming back here, thank you ladies and gentlemen, what I propose to do now is just shut down because we're not quite 4 o'clock yet, but I shall cross over from here and I'll make my way along towards Horse Guards Parade. In fact, I can do that now, really. So Horse Guards Parade, the place where you have the trooping of the colour. This is the great ceremony which takes place in June of every year, when the monarch, that's either the Queen Elizabeth or now her son, Charles III, will come down to review the guards of the household division. And what they will do is there'll be a big ceremony here, but it won't take place until June. You can also see, as I say, beyond the Horse Guards, the observation wheel called the London Eye. So you've got the whole of the Horse Guards Parade down here. As I say, you can see for yourself with all the various military memorials, and then further down you have the rear view of the Foreign Office and what used to be the Indian Office. And coming down here we have the memorial to the guards who fell in the First World War. That's what it is. It's a special military memorial to the guardsmen who perished in the First World War. And it has all the various battles in which they fought. I won't go through them all, but there we have it. Okay, so what I'll now do is cross over the road. There are no lights to help me on this one, so there would be a car coming, wouldn't there? They're now all coming from every direction. I think it's 29 minutes past, so what I think I will do, just say thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. I'll say over and out. What I propose to do is cross over the road and go and see the inspection, but it's not due for a little while, so it doesn't make any sense to hang on because there's nothing really to hang on for. So I'll just say over and out and see you later.